We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show. I am your man behind the microphone and your current reigning, defending Scholars of Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, Scholar Jeff. Joining us this week is the Great Cheese, also known as the Undisputed Scholar himself, Scholar Tarek. Is that you over there?
I am the Great Cheese. I am the new Hall of Famer on this show. Yeah, that's all I got. I can't. I'm better than both. Like, who would be his salami and be the bologna for him?
I am better than both the Kane and the Edge or Batista combined.
Let's see who else. Who else is being? Who else is in the Hall of Fame announced?
I am better than the Kane and the Molly Holly combined.
Oh no, Molly Holly is Betty Baloney.
I
Hey,
am
boy, what a beautiful day!
I am better than Rob Van Dam. I am better than them both.
We'll get that. We'll get to all that in just a second. But also joining us, as you've heard and seen, the one and only Mr. Scholar Ryan. Scholar Brian, I guess your night's going okay.
Never trust in goo. That is my advice.
Hey man, you took a big risk going with a no contest.
I took a big risk because if there was any match that there was ever going to be a no contest for, I thought this would be it. But instead, Alexa Bliss straddled Randy Orton, got his wife pissed off.
Lucky.
So we got the lulls out of that. But if you're going for a championship, piece of advice: never trust in goo.
Never trust in goo. Indeed, it is a lesson well learned, and we'll get to all of that in greater detail so everyone can know exactly what on earth we're talking about. But first, we need to kick things off the right way with a little something we like to call backstage news.
Indeed, we shall go ahead and look behind the curtain that leads to the road to WrestleMania in this edition of
Backstage news. Hall of Fame, man.
Yes.
WrestleMania.
Yes, indeed. WrestleMania is coming, and so is the return of the WWE Hall of Fame. And we had some very, very intriguing, to say the least, announcements for the Hall of Fame. Fool, I'm going to pitch it over to you. How did it all go down?
Well, it's nice that you threw it to me because this is for a story for me in every sense of the word. For the people who know me personally. The big one for me, the positive side of this backstage news is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, a man, myself, who will forever be declared a Canaanite. More than happy to announce that during WWE's The Bump, The Undertaker announced that Kane will be inducted into this year's class of the WWE Hall of Fame. And I couldn't be any more happy about that news. I even loved that it was Undertaker who announced it on The Bump with Kane basically right Zoom call wise right next to him just to hear the news himself. I thought it was a very touching, very sweet moment. But beforehand,
and then
before that, WWE India, as Brian put it before we started recording this, couldn't keep it in their pants and leaked out that not only Kane, but also the Great Khali, or as I like to call him, the Great Cheese, will also be inducted into this year's WWE Hall of Fame. And when Brian got in touch with me to give me that news, he was expecting a long, angry rant. But instead, I just got a big old laugh, big old belly laugh out of this news. I was not upset. I was just not surprised at all that WWE did this. Also, he's a very big thing in India. So he's one of the big headlines for WWE India. So it makes perfect sense that this guy would be put in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I actually found out about the Greg Tully first,
Well, yeah, because
and
like I said, they leaked it first
and
before.
and Torek and Scholar Torek had to actually tell me because we were on the phone talking about that when Kane got announced being in the Hall of Fame, and we were wondering who is going to induct him. And I think the fact that Mark Calloway was the guy who actually announced that he was gonna be in the Hall of Fame, you can almost guarantee now that Mark Calloway is going to be the one who inducts him into the Hall of Fame, who is the speech guy at the beginning, that kind of deal. And this was always going to happen. Okay, it's deserved. He took a gimmick that was supposed to be 6 months, actually confirmed in interviews that this was supposed to be 6 months, a gimmick that the Undertaker was supposed to kill off. I think after when they did a Hell in a Cell match or something or whatever, and that was supposed to be the end of Kane, and he turned that into 20 years of 20 years of not always good stuff, but enjoyable stuff that everybody remembers.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's I love about Kane is that, yeah, it wasn't supposed to be a very long story, but he made this into a career. And
Exactly. And when you know what
so
he
many
had to deal with.
moments. There's so many different moments throughout this career that you would think, oh, this is eventually going to die out, this story. But he throughout the whole time, he kept thinking of newer, fresher ideas to keep this character going. One, taking off the mask, one also electrocuting a man's balls, having a multiple kind of a separate personality between corporate Kane and Demon Kane. Let's see, what else?
And we also now have politics Kane.
And now we have politics.
Sensible politics Kane.
Nothing better than politics Kane.
Yeah, sensible politics Kane.
But
it's kind of the point where I'm like, I don't even like talking politics, and whenever anyone asks me, I'm just like, normally Kane in real life will have like a quote that I agree with, or like, yeah, if you care to know what I think, just like whatever Kane said, literally.
Pretty much, yeah.
And
so in the end, it's when you think of someone who couldn't be any more deserved to be put in the WWE Hall of Fame, it is Kane.
And when you remember what the guy Glenn Jacobs actually had to deal with before he got the character Kane, Isaac Yankem, the evil dentist.
Britt Baker's long lost stepfather.
and
holy crap, those two absolutely need to interact now, don't they?
Absolutely.
And
someone call Adam Cole, bring her up to the Hall of Fame ceremony.
And all
just get the one photo and I'm good.
And all of the shitty gimmicks that he had to deal with before that. And the one thing that comes to him that clicks is a 20-year-old gimmick that lasts, that endures, that'll never be forgotten. Yeah, that guy deserves the Hall of Fame, and I'm glad he got it. Now, as for the great cheese, let's face it, we've all made fun of this guy.
Oh, absolutely, we did. And
he is not what anybody, by any stretch of the imagination, would call a great wrestler. But let's face it, okay, he is basically the ambassador for all Indian relations to the WWE.
Yep.
Anybody that got in here, Mansoor, Jinder Mahal, and anybody who comes in the future will be there because they gave Great Khali the shot. And as much as we make fun of him, he took that ball and he ran with it.
His biggest moment was step pinning the Undertaker,
Exactly.
which is a very big moment. It has to be said. And hey, it got a world title reign. That's good for him. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think the main reason he's in this is because he was an ambassador for WWE India, and that's actually the perfect position for him.
Exactly. And that I believe is the main reason why he's in the Hall of Fame. And if that's the case, then
Let's go
you
for it.
if that's the case, then I'm down because it makes sense. If we get a good batch of wrestlers that come from Indian descent, it will be because they gave Great Khali the shot.
Now, when you think about it, it actually would make sense if they actually have Mansoor be the one to induct him.
I honestly think it'll be Jinder.
All I know for certain is that I am absolutely not looking forward to that acceptance speech.
All I keep
I-
thinking about is him singing with Santino Marella.
I think they're just got to do the dance for like 10 minutes.
Hey,
Have the Khali dance.
if
for 10
that's the
minutes.
case,
As
if
long as
that's
he
the
doesn't-
case,
as long as he doesn't speak and they just do the dance, let's go for it. That's it.
just watch. They're gonna make his instead, in lieu of an acceptance speech, they're just gonna do like a whole Bollywood dance number. I can actually see him doing that. I don't even know if I'm getting or not. But hey, either way, congratulations to both the men. Both deserved, arguably for very different reasons. But hey, an accolade is an accolade, and they're both deserved. But now we need to get to the big news, the latest happenings in the world of this lovely title and how it was retained, by talking about the breakdown from this past weekend's WWE Fastlane pay-per-view. Kicking us off with
successfully defended that title, but how the predictions actually went, no one's going into this Mania with momentum. Because it was a 4-way tie between all 4 of us.
And it's like, I don't know how that happened because everybody had.
Well, you and Jeff had both had your match wrong. With the Goo betrayed both of you.
Hey, all I know is I still have this belt, and I'm going to be going in to WrestleMania as the incumbent champion, and that's saying enough.
Yeah, you did that last year too, and look how quickly you lost it. So that's enough.
Hey, I will hold on to this belt as long as I damn well please.
You may be walking into the viewing party of WrestleMania as champion, but you will never go to WrestleMania as champion like I have.
Oh shit!
And that title at WrestleMania.
Fighting words.
You're welcome to say whatever you want, but let's get right into the results of Fastlane.
And that is exactly what happened, and that is.
On the pre-show, we had Riddle defeating Mustafa Ali, and the complete implosion of Retribution. Was anybody shocked?
No.
The Retribution has been a fail basically from the start. Mustafa Ali tried to do as much as he could in Twitter promos to keep the momentum going, but in every way, shape, or form, WWE screwed themselves with this angle. And like, I guess I'm glad that everybody that was involved that wasn't Mustafa Ali were masked. so that common fans who aren't us, who don't know, who are behind the masks, like they still have a shot.
Like here's the thing. This is probably going to be something I'm going to say throughout the Fastlane discussion, because when it comes to this, at least especially for the first half, it's just a whole lot of not getting invested in this show. It's like just mainly during the first half. Oh, maybe even the first 2/3. So when you have this whole situation with Retribution, Matt Riddle versus Mustafa Ali was just a match. Two guys who can go in the ring and put on. Basically, this is a Raw level match. It shows why they bumped it down to the pre-show. But when it comes to now the implosion of Retribution, I think this is now just a complete no more Retribution in general. Like what Brian said, yeah, the Retribution stable is now officially, now that it's officially over, can be declared as a fail. Interesting idea, terrible execution. Now when you have Mia Yim, they're probably going to just reintroduce her as Mia Yim. They'll drop this whatever her name was. What was her name?
Reckoning.
Reckoning.
Thank you. I knew it was someone with an R.
Yeah, she'll probably just revert back to her original gimmick and just put herself in the women's division. Slapjack.
Shane Thorne of NXT.
He'll probably just go back to being Shane Thorne in NXT. The only people that I actually see staying on mainly the main roster to, if anything, be thrown into the tag division is Mace and T-Bar, Daijo and what is his?
Dio Madden.
Yeah, I really am a big fan of Dio Madden. I really hope he sticks around. I don't care what he does.
Tag team. I see them going into the tag division, especially it's the fact that the other two left, and like
they already have a finishing move.
Yeah, they already have a finishing move, which is the double choke slam T-bomb.
Yeah, so
no one knows that I did wrestling in the past. That was my finishing move, the T-bomb, a sit down choke slam. So
and
the deal it'll be called now.
Yeah,
I see these two being in the thrown in the tag team division, and yeah, I actually prefer them to be in the tag team. Will they continue to be T-Bar and Mace? Probably not.
I hope not, anyway.
But I see them actually sticking together as a tag team. That is a division that desperately needs a tag team. Like needs a division other than just 3 tag teams now. New Day, Hurt Business, which I'll get into that a lot later, and I got a lot to say about that. And Omos and AJ Styles. We need a 4th.
Yeah, and the deal with this was that this entire pay-per-view is basically what it was meant to be. Nothing got solved here. Nothing got solved here. Nothing got solved in this match. Nothing got solved in any of the other matches. All of these matches are just build up to WrestleMania. As good as some of them are and were, okay, you could have had these on any episode of Raw or SmackDown, and they would have worked.
As far as that, but I see what you're saying. But for 1 or 2 matches, I'll disagree on that.
I'm not even. I'm saying that those 1 or 2 matches, I know which ones you're talking about. Those 1 or 2 matches, you didn't need a pay-per-view for those.
Oh, I'm sure we're gonna get to all of those. Great,
but the deal with this match is it was good, it was fine, but no investment here. There was no reason to care. Matt Riddle and Ali did their jobs fine. You had the disillusion. You had the disillusion of the I don't even know if that's the right word, but whatever, of the of the Retribution stable, and nobody cared. Time to move on. That's it. That's why it was on the pre-show.
It's more sad that there was no what's the word? There was no continuing that story on Raw, at least on the Retribution part. That match, the pre-show happened, and then you don't see any follow-up. That's the word. You don't see any follow-up.
So then it feels like a retcon. So it never happened, and it's like, okay, so what the fuck? What are we doing?
Now
What
we're
happened?
going to get like video packages for the next couple of weeks of Mace and T-Bar. We will return to their new gimmicks.
Hey, if we're lucky, we'll get that. But then again, before we get to all that, we have another tag team match to power on through. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defeated Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair.
No.
I think we all pretty much called this one.
Damn it, Reggie!
No, it's not. Everything about this match was basically destined to be a fail
From the beginning.
because you either have Sasha and Bianca be your new women's tag team champions, which doesn't really work. It's like now the tag team champ. It's like the story of the tag team champions going against each other at Mania, or you have either your SmackDown Women's Champion or your Royal Rumble winner lose on the road to WrestleMania. And that's the one that they go with. And it's the champion that ends up getting pinned. And even the booking of this match was just terrible to watch. I mean, I think a lot of people have even said this, but I'm also going to add to it. During the closing moments of this match, you have pretty much a big double team move of Bianca and Sasha putting Shayna Baszler in the I don't even remember what the bank statement.
Yes.
And then you see Nia Jax come in. Bianca Belair is trying to stop her, and right in Sasha's view, Nia Jax shoves Bianca Belair onto Sasha Banks, and yet Sasha Banks goes to Bianca Belair and goes, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" The placement on this was completely terrible. It just made Sasha Banks look like a complete doofus. And when it comes now to both like the question on what will close night one of WrestleMania, they hurt this match so badly that I even told Brian this. I think this one will open WrestleMania other than close it. Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre is what's going to close night one for me.
As I said on the prediction show, okay, they backed themselves into a corner here because there was no reason to do this a second time. Okay, you told the story the first time. Okay, if you were going to go the route which they normally do, and have them win the titles and do the whole breakup with the titles bit that WWE likes to do, it would have made sense to do it at Elimination Chamber. It would have made sense to do it the first time when they had 6 or 7 weeks of build to be able to get to the point that any of this would have made sense. Instead, they have them lose at that point, and that should have been it. That should have been done. Then you move on to the singles bit of the feud. But instead, they drag this tag team feud out more. It hurts the build to the women's title match that everybody's been looking forward to. Everybody's been looking forward to Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. Like, everybody was excited when Bianca Belair won the Royal Rumble. And I got to admit, this is one of those times where a build to a title match has completely killed all excitement that I've had going into that title match. I mean, like Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair, that's a no-brainer. You can't, like, there is 1% chance that you can kill a build to that match. Okay. And the WWE found that 1%, and they've been hammering over and over and over again. It's like, I still believe that it's going to be the main event because they've been building that on social media. Like WWE in general has been building that on social media. But I'm like, there's nothing about this build. There's nothing about this title match. There's nothing about this title build that makes me believe that this is worthy of a WrestleMania main event slot. And just as Tarek said, that spot at the end where the obvious spot of Bianca Belair accidentally breaking the bank statement because Nia Jax threw her into an obvious view of Sasha Banks doing the hold, and Sasha Banks, what are you doing? That's dumb. All of it is dumb. The rematch is dumb. The build is dumb. The end of the match is dumb. It makes me have no confidence in this match at all.
I'll be honest, on that note, I have to confess something. I feel like for at least like 2/3 to like half of this entire show, I felt myself nodding off. And it was just, I just couldn't focus. I was not invested. I was losing it. And I feel like this match did nobody any favors, and that continued into the next match. Big E versus Apollo Crews. Big E defeating Apollo Crews, technically via terrible botch. Yay.
Yeah, the match itself, this is a tale of two matches: the match itself and the ending. The match itself, fine, great. These two beat the crap out of each other like they've been doing for the last 6 title defenses. Yeah, but the reason he's getting the confirmed rematch at WrestleMania, it's confirmed now. Apollo Crews versus Big E, confirmed on SmackDown tonight for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania, is because of that botched finish in this match.
Are you suggesting that that botch was intentional in some way?
I'm honestly thinking that was supposed to be the finish of the match. It just looked really fucking weird at the end.
Interesting theory. Not sure if I believe it. Fool, your input. Was the ending a botch, or was that intentional?
I think the idea was supposed to happen. It just, if anything, happened too soon. At least that's how I come to picture it. Because this is the match that actually pissed me off the most. And it's not even just because this was my only prediction that I got wrong on this show. It's just they're pulling basically the Carmella storyline with Apollo Crews all over again. Like you give a brand new gimmick to someone. It's a good momentum build for this person where it's like, all right, the best thing you can do is just give them the title, like immediately put them in a title match and have them win the title. And if you don't give it to him right away and he's still continuing to lose, it just puts the momentum into a halt. So yeah, now I don't care about this.
I'm not going as far as to say that I don't care. But if Apollo Crews doesn't win the title at Mania, okay, you have killed any hope that I have for this character transformation.
Oh,
Okay, you've heard it.
it's
You've
obvious
heard
he's
it.
gonna win it. It's obviously they're saving it for Mania, but I feel like waiting that long. If they were gonna wait this long to put up the title on him and have that one final another fact that he lost a match to Big E, even through botch whatever, is stupid. It doesn't nothing
Yeah.
for the does nothing for Big E because it does nothing for Apollo because he loses another match, and it doesn't do anything for Big E because Apollo beat the ever loving shit out of him in the aftermath. So
This,
in
this,
this end, nobody wins.
this would have been a good thing if you were going to do this match again at WrestleMania. This would have been a good time for a no contest or a DQ or a count out or something like that.
Like if anything, like a no contest that would actually be one of those situations where I would be accepting for the no contest, where they basically beat each other so deeply that they have either they do a double count out, they beat each other to outside, and they just go all over the place, and they both get count out, and it just leads to some sort of extreme stipulation esque, like falls count anywhere or whatever for this, because it just becomes so personal and all that with these characters. But they didn't do any of that. Instead, as Brian puts it, they backed themselves into a corner again that they shouldn't have put themselves in the first place. So I'm no longer too little too late for me when they give him the belt.
Yeah, I can't say I'm of two minds of the subject. I feel like I've got minimal investment right now, but then I've also feel like I've gotten a taste of what both men can really pull off. Like I feel like Big E's starting to come into his own. I feel like I don't really like Apollo Crews' new gimmick at all, but I appreciate the polish and confidence that comes with it, if that makes any sense at all. So I'm like, in my mind, there's still some hope that they can recover and make this like a decent mid-card match for WrestleMania. But as far as the way this went, I'm with you. I'm just like nothing. And there's nothing that's really going to kick me out of that. In this next match, we've got Braun Strowman defeating Elias because sure, why not?
As soon as Shane did his bit that said Elias is replacing him, it's just I said it over. I said it in our little chat. I was like, Strowman's gonna murder Elias, and he did. That's it. There's not much else to really say about this match. He went in and he killed him. That's it.
Let us just get this storyline over with. Let us have throw our person into a Gunka Slime match at WrestleMania. Let's move on. I got literally nothing for this.
Gak on a pole match. Book it. Anyway, speaking of Gak, here's something that has absolutely nothing to do with Gak, because I feel like I finally came out of my focus rut admin with this next match. Seth Rollins defeated Shinsuke Nakamura. I think it was around this time where I'm thinking like, okay, now we're talking. Now this is a match.
This is when this is the turning point when the show actually started getting good for me. Well, of course we have to just quickly mention the Old Spice guy becoming 24/7 champion and then R-Truth getting it back. All right.
Oh boy, I totally forgot about that.
God damn it.
We mentioned, let's move on. Let's go back to Rollins.
Moving on, yes. Rollins Nakamura, go.
Now that the bad shit is out of the way, now we're moving on to the good stuff that happened at Fastlane with Shinsuke versus Seth Rollins in an awesome match. I love this. This was a good we knew what the outcome was, but the story told in that ring worked perfectly, and they even continued that with what happened on SmackDown. They got the rematch. Seth won again, and backstage brawl or post-match brawl that led to Cesaro coming in, and now we're getting our Cesaro versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Yay!
Cesaro's first singles match at WrestleMania in his entire run with the company. How you feeling, Tart?
I feel like there are not enough pillows. There are not enough rags that will just contain the excitement that is going to be building up and climax at WrestleMania.
I fear for the state of your house. No,
It's okay. All of the floors and walls have been thoroughly chemically treated and sanitized, and are be ready for easy cleanup.
They're prepared for my climax.
but this was exactly what it. Sometimes a match doesn't have to exceed its potential. We know what it is. We know what it's going to be. We know what it's leading to. You just need to give us 15 minutes of good stuff to get us there. And this is exactly what that match did. Okay, we knew the ending from the beginning. Okay, as long as Shinsuke Nakamura got a lot of good stuff in this match, which he did, we would be fine with it. We'd be happy with it. We'd like it. And everything that needed to happen in this match happened. So for the first time during this pay-per-view, yay!
Exactly.
Good for you, WWE.
Yes, indeed. This was definitely, it's not my match of the night, but it is noteworthy that at least it was the match that brought me back and started making me put my phone down. I was like, okay, oh, good wrestling, yay. But now on that note, now we're going to what I thought was my personal pick of the night. We got Drew McIntyre defeating Sheamus in one of those kick your teeth in, brawl all over the place kind of matches. And there are a few who do it better in this generation, in my opinion, than Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, and that's exactly what we got.
The perfect way to sum up this match was how something that we kind of discussed we discussed about last week. Loser gets the U.S. title match. And yeah, this
loser better win the U.S. title match. Is what I'm saying.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, this match, I'm actually on the fence on either this or the final match of the night as my match of the night, because this match, there was literally, I don't think there's anything bad you can say about this match. This is was the exclamation point of their feud, showing like these guys are exactly where they need to be. They in the main event picture, at least for Monday nights. I loved everything about this. I loved all the stuff around the ring. I love that they destroyed monitors. It was definitely one of those matches that I could even see. This could be the new Cena Orton. It's one of those feuds that define WWE. Like each generation has those feuds that get together and be like, okay, when you think of that year, you think of those feuds, and I think Sheamus and Drew McIntyre definitely prove that.
Yeah, and for me, it's like going based off of that thought. It's like you can see them any way that you want to. They can go back to being friends. They can be friends. They can be enemies at any time, and you would believe it because they're Scottish, they're Irish, they like to fight. It's like there hasn't been anything like done that you can't come back from at this point. Okay, Sheamus kicked him in the face.
This could
That's how this all started. So it's like it's an Irish guy who wants his spot and needed to take out his best friend and able to try to gain that spot. It's an age-old story. You can always come back from that. And the deal, this was my match of the night, basically because I know what match you're also thinking of, Scarlet Tarek. What put this ahead for me was there were no shenanigans to get to the end point. So it's just
That's fair, but
this this was a brawl.
main event.
This was everything that it needed to be, the best that it could have been. And Sheamus is on the run of his career right now. It's
at-
like if you don't
at
give
the
him a
point where
title,
I want to see these two actually fight again in the future.
yeah, if you don't give him a title at this point, it's stupid. He's the guy you're leaning on right now to just give you good match after good match after good match, and he's delivering. So reward him for it.
Well, speaking of finally getting rewards, or in this case, payoff, we had our next match, which led to, famously enough, Alexa Bliss defeating Randy Orton, which not only ushered in my title defense, but it also ushered the return of the Fiend looking like a horribly burned Swamp Thing monster guy. Initial reactions to the Fiend's new look. Go.
I have more of just basically the reaction on the fact that it's essential. It's essential that like it was made clear this was the deciding factor of your guys' title match for Fastlane, and the final result is there is no winner between the two. You both lost this one.
Did I though? Did
No,
I though?
that it may be you just successfully defend it, but wouldn't you rather do it on a winning side of things other than just
Are you kidding?
you both technically lost, so
This is the guy
you're
who
holding on to it by a technicality.
This is the guy who invented Golluming the title. You think he's gonna matter? You think he's gonna care?
It's
about
not my fault that default is the two greatest words in the English language. Default, default, default. No?
going based off
Bueller?
going based off of not thinking about this match, not thinking about the goo monster betraying me. That's fine. Whatever. I did like how they played this in the fact that Randy Orton could never actually touch Alexa Bliss. Like there was always the magic going on. He would run at her, the fireballs would flame up. He did I like this match was pure character work.
Oh yeah, this is like Firefly Funhouse level. Like it was technically a match, but it was a story more than anything.
And it worked. And the look, okay, it had to happen. Okay, I'm not. He had to come back looking burnt, or else all of that fireball shit at fucking TLC would have been I would have been worthless. Okay, he couldn't come back looking like normal Fiend. That wouldn't have worked. Everybody was shit on it. A lot of people shit on this, but it's like, what you want to? How did you want him to come back? Looking normal? You can't come back from that looking normal. Okay, and gradually it will get to the point where he looks normal again. But looking at TLC, okay, every bit of his fucking body was in flames at the end of that show. He couldn't have come back looking like the Fiend used to. So it looks weird. It looks like a burnt potato. It does. His entire body looks like a burnt potato. But it's like, I don't know what a person who is burnt over 100% of their body looks like.
Especially
But
the ones that
gotta
demon clown.
But if you're going to burn somebody the way you burned somebody at TLC, yeah, I'd imagine that's how they'd look like coming back if you wanted to play that character.
And if something doesn't add up, just say, hey, blame it on fiend magic or something. It works for me anyway. But now, finally,
Oh no,
yes,
no,
Fool.
I'm
Before
not,
we, yes.
I am not at all done with this thing.
Oh, pardon me
I-
then.
I
Fire
even-
away.
I even hinted it to you guys earlier today, how my fantasy booking mind was just running wild on this.
Oh, yes.
Here we
yes.
go.
What do you got?
It is this particular storyline in general that caught my attention. And though it all stemmed from the fact that most people online are looking at this new Fiend and be like, this is weird. He doesn't exactly have the same body structure as Bray Wyatt. And some people are thinking that this may be Bo Dallas under the new Fiend mask. And in my personal opinion, I know it's not, because I'm especially not for the build for WrestleMania. It's not Bo Dallas. It's definitely Bray Wyatt just to build for their match at the Randy Orton versus the Fiend match at WrestleMania. But it just really clicked in my head. You know what? A part of me kind of does want it to be Bo Dallas to be Alexa Bliss's Fiend versus Bray Wyatt, kind of like a fake Undertaker type storyline with the Fiend character, where it's Alexa Bliss who basically resummons the Fiend, but in order to successfully do it, she needs a vessel, and it has to also be Bray Wyatt's, like, has to do with something with Bray Wyatt's bloodline. So she uses Bo Dallas to resurrect her Fiend that she can control to face Bray Wyatt's rendition of the Fiend. And it's just fantasy booking that I would just be like, it is so fucking ridiculous that I do want to see it happen. And if anything, we can get a Firefly Funhouse version of Bo Dallas to feud against Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt with Alexa Bliss to give Bo Dallas something to do, and it's going to be against his brother, which maybe even in the future we basically get a Fiend tag team of Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas in the near future.
The Fiends going for the tag titles.
Hey, we need tag teams, right?
Wouldn't you love it? It would be a great. Like I said, it's a kind of a cross between Kane Undertaker storyline with the brother, and a fake Undertaker with the fact that Alexa Bliss has basically summoned her own Fiend that she can control, and eventually probably feud with Bray Wyatt Fiend. That's just something that it popped into my head, that in my immediate response to people are thinking, the Fiend just doesn't have the same body structure as Bray Wyatt. So they're just jumping to the conclusion that it's Bo Dallas. So of course my fantasy booking mind just went wild. I'm like, you know what? A Bo Dallas Fiend versus Bray Wyatt is something I would love to see in the future. And I just wanted to run it by you guys.
This definitely seems like, to me, one of those ideas that is all dependent on the execution. Like, even with the Fiend character itself, like, it could have very easily become super cheesy and super, like, ridiculous. If they've got the right execution, I can see Alexa Bliss and Bray pulling it off and making something out of it. But
I could see them having the creative freedom to do something like that, and it would actually work. I mean, most of this just feels like a Bray Wyatt wild dream that he probably dreamt up and is like, let's do it. I have the creative freedom to do it. I mean, look what I did with Firefly Funhouse.
That remains to be seen. As far as I'm concerned, I'm only looking towards WrestleMania. As far as what they do
Oh.
after WrestleMania,
Because it's WrestleMania, it's hard. It's really hard to think about this because I'm like, okay, they can't have it be unless they want to keep the storyline, just have it be just the Fiend character going against Randy Orton and have it eventual be a reveal that that's not Bray Wyatt.
And it's also the deal where it's we know that Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss can pull this kind of character work off. Can Bo Dallas pull this kind of character work off?
He can do it.
and that's the key in my mind. Anyway,
There's no doubt in my mind that he won't, that he doesn't have the tools to do this. I think he perfectly does have the tool for this.
So what you're actually saying right now is all we need to do is believe. I don't think I can top. I don't think I can top that at the end of that segment any better if I tried. So let's take it home with the final.
Believe.
All right. But final match of the evening, our main event of the evening, we've got Roman Reigns defeating Daniel Bryan in a surprisingly good match. I mean, these guys can definitely deliver, but this was especially Daniel Bryan matches in particular, he can have this tendency to produce something even greater than we have a tendency to expect here. And this is absolutely one of those matches. I enjoyed this thoroughly.
Yeah, I expected this going in because I remember their Fastlane match from 2016, the year that everybody was pissed because Reigns won the Rumble, and they needed him to beat Bryan to confirm his spot in WrestleMania, and that match was fantastic, but nobody wanted to admit it because everybody hated that version of Roman Reigns. But the deal, this was everything I expected and more. What helped it over the top for me was the end where Edge went into the character work of going fully demented. Daniel Bryan's trying to take my spot. Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns. I'm taking out everybody. Fuck everybody. That was Edge's. That was Edge's mindset at the end of the match, and I'm like, okay, we've got something here. Okay, we've got something going, and now it's confirmed. Hey, triple threat match at WrestleMania, confirmed for the Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan.
Yep, just confirmed on SmackDown this evening.
Exactly. So we get a better feud, we get a better match coming out of this, and the match itself was everything I expected and more. Roman Reigns continues being awesome, most likely the best thing in this company at this point. Daniel Bryan's Daniel Bryan. You'll never get a bad performance out of Daniel Bryan. So all the tools were there and they performed admirably. And the ending, the only reason this match doesn't get match of the night for me is because of the shenanigans at the end, because a match with no shenanigans will always win for me. But the shenanigans at the end put it over the top because of what it means for WrestleMania. And this match is great.
Oh yeah, I truly loved this match. Like, I'm really debating on making this my match of the night because it was a great match, including a great story being told in this. And that, in my opinion, that actually had both. Part of me just wants to say, the hell with it, and just pick both matches a match of the night for me because I really can't decide. on which of the two matches between this and Drew and Sheamus that I love the most. What this is one of those situations where I see where you're going about the whole shenanigans storyline, the shenanigans ending, Brian, but for me, it worked. Like, I'll accept the shenanigans if it's justified. If they just do it just because they can't think of an ending to put for a match, then I think that's just bullshit. This one, yeah, it's a completely justified on why the match had to end the way it did. And now I will be nitpicky on the whole staging of it, especially just how the referee gets knocked out and Edge gets knocked out. It's just those typical staging where you know it's coming. So yeah, it's just nitpicking for that. But what was solidified it is just the whole story going into this is that Daniel Bryan succeeded on what he said he was going to do, and he indeed made Roman tap out the first time ever in his career. Granted, it meant nothing because that wasn't the results, and it helped put him in the mat now, making it a triple threat match at WrestleMania. And yet, the outcome of Edge's involvement was executed exactly how I predicted it last week. That you predicted it as it was going to be an accidental. I'm like, there's not going to be an accident about this. He's doing this on his own free will with his, as you put it, demented state. And now the build on this is just basically a repeat of WrestleMania 30, and I absolutely love it. To the point where I kind of want the same result to happen for this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I considered that same thought when I was seeing how everything was developing this evening at the end of this week's SmackDown, but I'm not totally convinced I'm gonna feel the same way in like 1 or 2 weeks' time. I'll have to get back to you on that one. But in the meantime, now that we've looked over the entire card, gentlemen, what are your final facial hair ratings for WWE Fastlane 2021?
Champion goes first on this one.
Okay, if you insist. This one, I try to be kind to these kinds of shows whenever possible. Always try to look for the upside, but there was too much that just either went wrong or didn't land or whatever else. So unfortunately, I cannot be too generous with this. I'm going to give this a peach fuzz, 2 out of 5. Just too much went wrong, too much didn't land, and I felt myself sort of drifting off and being bored for too much of it. There were some bright spots, but not enough to save the overall show.
I got to admit, as I said earlier, all right, there were some really good matches on this show. Okay, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, the Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, the Shinsuke Nakamura, Seth Rollins. But as I said earlier on the show, any of these particular matches, any of these particular results, okay, they really didn't need to be on a pay-per-view. Fastlane didn't need to happen. Any of these matches could have happened on a Raw or SmackDown, and they would have worked the exact same way. Especially in this landscape that we're in now, that we don't have fans. We're not getting the first fans until WrestleMania. In this landscape, these matches would have worked in a Raw or SmackDown setting. Which is why, even though the matches were good, I was floating between a peach fuzz and a classic OT, but it's like everything on this pay-per-view was a build to a better show. And in that case, some things landed, some things didn't, more things didn't. Peach fuzz. I agree with Scholar Jeff.
I'm sorry, say that last thing one more time.
Peach Fuzz, I agree with Scholar Jeff.
That's the line I was waiting for. Okay, continue, fool.
Okay. Fool. You.
Hey, I'm probably never going to hear that sentence ever again. So please, I'm going to take my indulgence before we move on.
I'm pretty sure he said in the past that he agrees with you on some things, but whatever. Take it as you will.
When he's
Indeed,
champion,
I
he
shall.
forgets a lot of things. When he's champion, he forgets a lot of things.
Who are you again?
Exactly.
But yeah, on the
Where am I?
you're I don't know. I
Who
don't
are
was
you?
hoping you would remember your basement, but okay.
I don't even, now it's reached
I'm
that
in a
point where
basement.
I don't it's reached that point where I don't even know anymore. But when it comes to the facial hair rating, I'm gonna join you gentlemen, and also I'm gonna give this a peach fuzz 2 out of 5. There was just so much on this show that just was very cringe to watch. It the one thing I disagree with on Brian is there were two matches on this card that I felt like were definite pay-per-view worthy matches, and those were the two final big matches, not the character storyline match that went with Alexa Bliss getting on Randy Orton in the way that I wish I was in Randy Orton's shoes right there. But that being said, yeah, Drew and Sheamus and Roman Daniel were definite matches that deserved pay-per-views. And they're right now two of my favorite matches of the year so far. I loved both of these matches so much that, yeah, those two were, in my opinion, pay-per-view worthy matches. And that I do agree, Fastlane did not need to happen. But because of those two matches, I'm glad it did happen. But those two matches weren't enough to just look at it back at all the stupidity that happened on this show. It made me not look forward to most of the stuff that's happening at WrestleMania, and that's a very bad thing to say on the road to WrestleMania. So yeah, Peach Fuzz 2 out of 5.
And I just want to. I'm not saying that those weren't pay-per-view worthy matches. I'm saying that those matches themselves didn't technically need to take place on a pay-per-view. I'm saying that those matches, while being pay-per-view worthy, you could have had those matches on a Raw or a SmackDown. Be the exact way that they were, and they'd actually enhance those Raws where they didn't, for me, enhance a pay-per-view.
I just can't agree on. I don't think that they would have the same impact if it was on a Raw or a SmackDown. I feel like these matches needed a pay-per-view to be on. I don't think this would have worked on a televised show. I think this is some things that are needed for pay-per-views. But yeah, you can feel that way about it being. I just don't agree. I just don't agree on that. But yeah, shame on this pay-per-view for being so not good.
Yeah, that at least thankfully is one thing we can all agree on, regardless of any other factors. So yeah, you heard it here first. Those are our reviews and takes on WWE Fastlane 2021. But of course, now is the time in our show where we're turning over to you, our wrestling viewing, listening, and criticizing audience, just like us. You've heard what we think. Now we want to hear what you think. How did this review go? Which matches were worthwhile? When did you fall asleep during the show? We want to hear from you. So drop us a line all across the internet, Facebook comments, YouTube comments, and of course, contacting us on the Twitter machines. We love it all, particularly the Twitter machines. You can check us out at Scholars OW for all the latest episode uploads every single week. And you can also check us out on our personal Twitter accounts. Fool, where can they reach you?
You can reach me looking at the entire WrestleMania card so far and finding maybe one or two matches that actually are being booked very well at the Avatar.
And Scholar Brian, where can they reach you?
You can reach me being very bored in general with the WWE at Atomic Beanpole.
And you can check me out, be clinging to my title very tenaciously at I'm Robbie Rage. Join in the conversation because you know we will, because you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're welcome. The road to WrestleMania marches on.